Hello and welcome along to the start of a brand new season from this FM20 story with Dorking Wanderers with me, Daniel. It's season 15, episode 1, and today, as you know from the end of season review, this season is starting with disappointment. We got the message to say that we qualified for Europe after Tottenham lost their Europa League final. Leicester had won the Europa League 2 final, but it didn't seem to bear an impact, and now, having reached the season, we are not listed as in European competition. So thankfully, most of our summer business went wrong and we didn't get our main targets. Otherwise, we would probably be in a spot of bother managing the squad this season. But as it is, we've got to prepare for a Premier League season, and this year we've got to leave everyone in no doubt. So whether it's winning a cup competition or taking Dorking into the top 5 where they cannot possibly miss out, we have to try and do it. So let's look at the summer transfer work we've done to get there. We'll be looking at a few big signings in key positions as we talked about, and probably a few more leaving the club than we bargained for, including interesting young players at the club, homegrown for the first time ever. So there's plenty to get through and plenty to look at. But firstly, if you are looking forward to a new season, please do put a thumbs up on it. It does make such a difference. Subscribe down below for daily FM20 content, as well as weekly live streams and plenty of other stuff as well. And if you want to catch up with the previous season, which culminated at our end of season review, you can do so in the eye above. There's a link to season 14 there. But let's crack on. We have got a big day today. Lots of transfer work to talk about. Lots of loss, as you can see on the finance sheet on the right, which explains that we have spent a bit of money. You can see that there's one deal to come in on loan, which they're pretty happy with. But what that does mean, unfortunately, is no Mitchell Baker. So what I'm going to start with, rather than the released players, the sold and the bought, is all of the ones we've missed out on this summer. So our primary targets in each position. So our first choice in central defence was Mitchell Baker. Mitchell Baker rejected us to go to Arsenal. He accepted less money to go there, but they're a Champions League side and we're now not in Europe, which shows why we can't compete. So we've lost out on the only full England international, or the only regular England international we had in the side, and probably the best player at the club has gone. So that's going to be a big challenge for this season, but we'll keep an eye on him later down the line. He's not even a first choice player there, so you've got to question his ambitions a little bit. We were then planning for Europe earlier in the summer, and we had a couple of players that were becoming free agents who were versatile, who were quality, and were able to help us out. So Declan Rice was one of those. He was being offered a 1-year deal on about 70 grand a week, what he asked for. He agreed it, and then Juventus came in and offered 135 grand a week to be their first choice holding midfielder. So of course he's going to accept that, no problem with that. 128 caps for England he's made. He's become a proper world-class midfielder. I mean, most of his career he spent at Everton, didn't really win a great deal. I'm not quite sure why he went there. And actually, probably had one of his best seasons last year before being let go. So one that certainly should have played at a higher level than he did, but Declan Rice was one we missed out on, as was Mason Mount. He's gone to Leicester for 64,000 because again, they're in Europe thanks to winning the Europa League 2. Another one physically just declining, but had good natural fitness, brilliant technically and mentally, and was versatile. He was one who was going to help us out and would have saved us 45 million in the transfer market. But unfortunately it wasn't to be. He's going to Leicester to be an impact sub for less money than we'd offered him to be a first choice player. 148 caps for England, nearly 40 goals. I mean, what a player he's been as well. 386 Premier League appearances for Arsenal, won plenty in his time there, and left Chelsea for 90 million after 2 years. But what an investment they got out of him. You've got to be fair to them. And the final one on that front was a new backup right back, which we talked about. And that man was Max Aarons, the young player from Luton, who's of course playing for Norwich in real life. He again at 33, an England international, very high natural fitness, was someone we were looking at. And unfortunately, he's gone to Lyon. So no chance of European football for us. And he's gone and playing in Europe and in the League 1, which will probably suit him a bit better actually. But he's still physically very good at 33. Has played for plenty of clubs at the top level. He played for West Ham for nearly a decade after signing for 35 million. 2 years as a backup at Manchester United before 2 more years at Leicester. And now he's over in France playing first team football for the twilight of his career. But let's move on. We've got to talk about our summer transfers. So we're going to talk about all the ins and outs. And before we get into those that may be going on, you can see some of the players we've rejected offers for. Jeff Coppens, Peter McLaughlin, Gleedle the youngster, that was a loan deal though. And we've had to cancel a couple coming in as well. We've got one player joining in January. Here's the first one we're going to look at. Carlos Manuel Correa. From next season, he will be our backup right back. 17 years of age, a brilliant potential, a good personality. I mean, he's got it all. 4.5-star potential, 2-star ability, and he will be the natural backup and probably replace Petrucci at that point. He is listed as Portuguese, but also is eligible for Cape Verde, and they're a nation we've got to keep an eye on because he is potentially part of a golden generation for that country, and if they can convince them all to play for them, they could potentially compete for a World Cup because they're that good, and you'll see what I mean about that later. We've got a few of the youngsters going out on loan though. Mark Turner, he's had offers, did play one game for us in the senior team, but he's not going to be good enough. But he's good enough to get professional football, and that's what matters. There's plenty of others there, some like Sam Williams that we've rejected them all for. He will be involved in our first team squad, and a few others that will be going out. But let's have a look at the players in and out the club. In terms of released players, it was just under 18s, so we'll get straight to the seniors this year. And you can immediately see, as we discussed in the end of year review, 3 big transfers in key positions rather than lots of little backups across the board and lots of sales of those types of players. So we've let go probably 5 or 6 from the first team squad, all for varying amounts of money from $500,000 to 10, 11, 12. But we've not got any massive sales on the board. None of the first teamers going like Stropper last year. No big overhaul. And we've just brought in 2 or 3 targeted key players. Of course, we wanted some of that experience to help in the squad, but that wasn't to be, and we're not going to pay for that. So let's start the outs. Johnny Duvall is the first one. He was on our list of players to go. Of course, he's a left winger who it didn't really work out for. We lost a tiny bit of money on him. He played 22 appearances, scored 1 goal, got 2 assists, and he's now playing off the bench for Brighton. An Ecuadorian international, a decent player, but injury prone and probably not quite good enough. So he moves on. Veron Hewlett is an interesting one second up. He's one of those youngsters who came through the intake who had average potential ability, 2.5-star he had. He's not got a good personality, which is why I've decided to let him go. And we've got the 50% sell-on clause just in case it does work out. But he's gone to Ipswich for about $250,000. And I find it a bit of a strange deal. So it's good to see we're getting that interest though. Some of our young players, and there's a couple further down at the bottom here, where we're getting transfer fees for young players out of our academy. The ones that aren't going to make it for us. And we can get the sell-on clause. So if they do slip through the net and they are quality players, we'll then get the money later on. So let me know what you think of that policy. Third down the list is Lewis James. He's gone to Portsmouth for $6 million up front, rising to 7.5. A great deal for someone we paid $2 million for, got service out of, but he ruined our big day. He let us down in a Carabao Cup final, and I don't know that I'll ever forgive him for that. So Lewis James goes to Portsmouth. He's playing in League One. You've got to ask how Pompey can spend $6 million on a fullback in the 3rd tier. But that's up to them. We've let him go, and we wish him all the best. Joe Wilson's gone on his free agent deal to Seattle. We've mentioned him a few years now. We've been trying to sell him since we got to the Premier League. But he did make 40 appearances in the lower leagues and is a good player. So we wish him all the best. Then we get to the 2 biggest transfer fees of the summer. Ruben Santos has gone to Bournemouth, who are a Premier League side. He is an important player there on 66 grand a week. And we have got a bit of a sell-on for him as well. I think it's only 20% or so. So we won't get quite as much out of him. But just in case it goes right, because he's now worth 22 million. It just didn't click. We said it in the end of season review. It's not that he was a bad player. He didn't really improve. He wasn't enjoying it here. Wasn't training brilliantly despite his personality. And he didn't perform fantastically. It just didn't work out. It's one of those things. And hopefully he'll do well at Bournemouth. Fingers crossed not against us though. Then Matthew Porteous was next. We were more than happy to keep him as 4th choice. We did get a brilliant one on deadline day in the end. And of course we were looking at Mount and Rice. And I was happy for Gleadle to be 4th choice too. But Porteous, we got an offer that was too good to refuse. 11.25 million from Leeds. A championship player, he's off the bench, he scored on his debut, you've got to give him that. A good player and a really good servant for our club. Crucial in Premier League promotion, but just not good enough for the top tier. So I'm sure he'll contribute for Leeds again. I'm sure he'll probably help them to promotion himself. And then, after a life-changing amount of money, we'll get sold back to another championship team. But well done Porteous, a good player for us. And 11 million, a cracking deal. We then sold Thomas Betts to the same club, Leeds United, 650,000. He's basically gone in to be their 4th choice centre-back at championship level, which he was doing for us in the Premier League beforehand. So no problems with that. We got basically what he was worth, and considering we signed him on a free, that's not a bad deal at all. David Park's a youngster's gone on loan to Fleetwood, one of many we'll be loaning out this year. Don't forget Fleetwood in the National League North now, so don't think he doesn't look good enough for them because of course they're playing in the 6th tier now. And then we got on to the 2 final ones, 2 more of the sort of Hewlett mould, not quite as good. But Quinseo Stovall, I think that is, he's gone to Hull for 160,000, potentially rising to 400. He's a 17-year-old, got decent ability, but didn't really have any potential. So hopefully that won't be proven wrong, but if so, again we've got the 50% sell on. A flair player, a young star, Hull a championship side I think, yes they are. So he's going to do well for them I'm sure. A really decent young player, and another one through our academy that's going to make it as a professional, and that's all we can keep asking. We're finally producing 4 or 5 professional players a year, and we've finally got the first 1 or 2 that can make it at our level. And finally, another one of those youngsters, Joe Stevens-Webber. He's gone to Sheffield Wednesday, 100,000 up front, 170 in future fees. He's a young goalkeeper, he's got the key stats but not much else. An average personality, doesn't like being a sweeper keeper, isn't good with his feet, so wouldn't suit us at the top level anyway. But again, we've got the sell-on clause, we hope he does well. And at 16, that's 5 of our youth intake from last year, 2 featuring in the first team, 2 sold on and 1 loaned out. And we've got another one from the year before who was sold on as well. You can't ask for much more than that. A brilliant intake it turned out to be, and a great moment for this brilliant football club. So before we move on to the 4 ins, and one familiar name in particular, I just want to take you very quickly to the club info screen, just to remind you of the things that are getting improved. So the training facilities is finally resolved. We've got a new affiliate club, which is AFC Wimbledon in League 2, which I may loan a 2 youngsters to later this season. And in the youth facilities in progress, that's another improvement that will take them right near the top level. So if we go and have a look at our actual facilities at the moment, the training facilities are miles off. The youth facilities will become excellent. The training facilities will hopefully become adequate, average, one of those 2. And most importantly of all, we've moved back to Dorking, a 21,000 seater that's finally ready for the Premier League. We'll give it 1 more season this year where it's going to be crucial, and then we'll try and improve it to its final capacity, which I think is 25,000. Hopefully that'll be able to be done quickly. But let's move on to the 4 ins, a perfect way to finish the episode by talking about the players who are going to star for us this season. We've got 2 who we're hoping are going to be first choice and are going to be superstars in the future. We've got 1 who you can probably tell by the fee is a returning hero who we hope is going to be our strongest backup in any position. And then 1 on loan from Chelsea because we just ran out of targets and we needed a cheap replacement. So he's basically here because both Mount and Rice rejected us, and because we couldn't sign a couple of others. And Porteous left as well, left us with no choice. Of course, in addition to the outs, we did lose Mitchell Baker as we mentioned, and Feeney left in his loan as well. So there were a few gaps in the squad, but don't forget Paddy Bowers back from his loan, Colin Petrucci back from his loan. They're both involved in the first team squad this year. So it's not quite as bad as it looks. Zach Council is the first of the men to come in. Of course a hero when we got promoted to the Premier League, then replaced by Ryan Lima, who has gone on to become a star. But he scored 15 goals in that season, 11 the year before, and really his career has just sunk since then. He had big injuries at Rangers and didn't really shine. At Watford he was involved in a relegation and in a poor team that got relegated very easily, and at Udinese he had an average season despite playing nearly every game. So coming back to us was a natural home. We didn't pay a huge amount for him, 23 million's pretty average at this level. And he's 3-star ability, 3.5 potential, happy to be a squad player behind Lima, already worth more money. He can play in the number 10 role, he can play on the left wing, apparently he can play at left back, but I can assure you he won't be playing there for us. But he might well come off the left hand side, that's something we'll look at in the future. But I'm really pleased with him. With Balic trying to cover on the right and McLaughlin and Ladawi last year, even Gleedle in the cups, it just didn't work. So this is going to be a big difference for us. Having 2 quality players in every position is so important. And Zach Council is a massive step towards that. And if we do get into Europe finally next season, he will star in those competitions. So let me know what you think of the returning hero then. And as we do, I ask you to remember the Cape Verde theme. Josiah Semedo is the next man to come in for 42.5 million from Benfica. Slightly over the odds in terms of current ability, but in potential if we can get him there, this could be our best ever signing. This is our replacement for Mitchell Baker, a 19-year-old Cape Verde international, 3-star ability, 5-star potential, wonder kid centre half, driven personality, 20 determination. I mean, the parallels to Ryan Lima are clear. He is physically fantastic, mentally for a 19-year-old exceptional, and good technically as well. My thought is, if we can get every attribute, bar determination of course, up by 1, we've got one of the best centre halves in the world. And with our facilities improving by the time he gets to 2021, and the fact that he's good with the ball at his feet as well, I feel like that could be the biggest step in our history. He's already played for Benfica's first team 10 times, and he will be our first choice centre half this year. So it might be a slightly rocky road to start with, but long term, I'm confident this is going to be one of our best signings. And only on 30 grand a week as well. Third is Tommy Fruit, the central midfielder we mentioned. We just wanted a versatile backup in that central midfield area. He can play centre mid, left wing, attacking midfield, and he's just got it all. He's a brilliant passer of the ball. 2.5-star ability, 4.5 potential, only 19 himself, good personality, physically solid enough to play 2 a week if need be, and he's got the key technical attributes for his position, so I've no problem with him at all. He'll come in as our 5th choice central midfielder, but he'll also be our 3rd choice attacking midfielder, our 3rd choice left winger, and just gives us that quality all across the board. Won't play a huge amount of football this year, but certainly one to keep an eye on. And then you've also got a sneak peek to what our final signing is. A new 1st choice central midfielder, a new partner for Carl Boyce, and a man who will push Yonton out of the team. That man is Keith Baltar, 44.5 million from Southampton, at 22 years of age, 3.5 ability, 4.5 potential, a box-to-box midfielder who is exceptional in the tackle, exceptional in the pass, good with the long shots, good with technique, monstrous physically, and very strong mentally. He's got the key stats for a box-to-box player as well. Anticipation, decision-making, teamwork and positioning, all very good. He's a Dutch international who's played for Southampton and AZ Alkmaar, plenty of first team experience at 22, and he's already worth nearly what we paid for him, despite us paying seemingly over the odds. So I'm really confident this guy's going to be good. Dictates the tempo. We're going to get rid of that looks for the pass because he's got such a good long shot rating, but I think he'll be crucial at both ends. Could be a good holding midfielder later in his career, and to be honest, he's solid at centre half. In a cup game against a lower league side, he plays out from the back, he'd be brilliant. So I'm really excited about this guy. I hope you are as well. Let me know in the comments what you think of him and all of the summer signings, particularly the 3 big money ones, because I think they're going to have a huge impact this season. Of course, the European football news is awful, and our season starts in the worst possible way with a trip to Liverpool. But we've then got 4 very winnable games, including 3 at home, before we visit Arsenal. And then we've got 2 more winnable games, and then a dodgy spell. So our harder games generally are spread out this season, and that may enable us to keep in form, keep consistent. But we'll wait and see how that works out. Of course, I've been wrong before on that one. And if we do go down to the last day of the season, again, we've got a fairly friendly away trip, which is all you can really ask for at this level. So we've got the Friendly Cup final, which we never played in the end. And that's another weird thing. I've just started to notice lots of little glitches this summer. We got told we were in Europe and never got there. We had a couple of issues last season, and then the Friendly Cup final here never got played. I've absolutely no idea what's occurred, but we're back for the first day of the Premier League season. That will take place today, and we are going to Liverpool. So the next episode will start with that. Back on Monday, a new season, a new start in the Premier League, and the toughest away trip to the side who threw away the title on the last day last year, but then won the FA Cup and were involved in the Champions League final too. They're a pretty decent side, I can assure you. So as we finish on the squad screen so you can see everyone in full, I'll get rid of these rules so you can see the full lot, bar Prescott who's at the bottom there. Let me know how you think we'll get on this season, give us your predictions for a league finish, and let us know if I've made any mistakes in selling people or any of the ones I've kept on screen here. As you look at them, please put a thumbs up on the video if you enjoyed this episode. It really does make such a difference, particularly at the start of a new season. So a massive thank you to everyone who does. Let me know down in the comments how you think we'll get on, and subscribe to the channel and turn that notification bell on down below. You'll get alerts as daily content releases on the channel as we end our season with Borussia Mönchengladbach in the head coach tomorrow. A massive moment and possibly one of our last games for the club, because we've got big job offers coming in the summer and an opportunity to come back to England perhaps. As we mentioned, this one will be back on Monday with our first game of the Premier League season, and hopefully there will be a glimmer of light for Europe. Maybe it's just another little glitch. We'll of course on Sunday have our next episode from the Stadium Review series as well, and it's another big trip on the road for Luton, this time Portsmouth, where we talk about Fratton Park and our experience of a weekend in Pompey. Of course, there's 2 episodes a week from Cricket 19 as well, and I'll be back live streaming on Tuesday as usual. Thank you to everyone who's popping along on the Tuesday morning or watching the live stream replay afterwards. But if you are free on Tuesday at 10 AM, I'd love it if you could join along. We've got a brilliant little community, and we just talk football for a couple of hours. It really is great fun. Finally, please do check out the podcast channel in the eye above. We've got interviews with loads of professional footballers, both current and past, from all different levels, all different stages of the game. We've also got weekly championship predictions, topical podcasts and much, much more. So certainly one to check out if you're a football fan. It's been growing enormously in the last few weeks and I can't thank you enough for your support. So please do head over there if you're able to and let me know what you think of the content. But a massive thanks for watching this one and joining me for the start of another new season. And hopefully we'll put some wrongs right against Liverpool next time out as we start the new Premier League season on Monday. I hope to see you there.